walking in the morning sun.
Hey friends, so this is going to kind of be somewhat of a not so TED Talk. I'm a little nervous, bear with me. Purpose of this video is one, to thank Miss Sarah Jakes Roberts for writing this, and two, to apologize to Miss Viola Davis, Miss Janet Jackson, and Miss Toni Braxton. And that sounds crazy, but you'll catch on in a second. So first of all, Woman Evolve. My friend Desmond bought this for our friend group like 3 years ago. And for years, 3 years, I was like, I don't have time to read. I'll get to it. Until God sat me down and I'm not driving and I'm not really going anywhere and this knee is having its way. However, I've been spending a lot of time in his presence. So as he was telling me about this next chapter, words like growth, becoming, evolution were kind of coming at me. So while I was in devotional, I looked up and I saw Woman Evolve on my bookshelf. So I was like, okay, this must be the time to read because I have no other excuse but to sit down. So I began reading it. And I recognized things about myself. And I found an answer to a question that I've had for almost a decade. In the last, I would say, 10 years of my life, there have been times where I was next to several special people. People that I prayed to be next to, people that I feel God called me to be next to. The problem is I would freeze. I would feel rushed. And the things that I know God told me to say, I wouldn't say them. And it almost felt like self-sabotage. I would get right there and I would get ready to say it. And it wouldn't come out. Like I said, this happened with some really special people. It happened with Viola Davis. It happened with Janet Jackson. And it happened with Toni Braxton. So after reading this book, I realized where it all stemmed from. I felt unworthy. I felt unworthy of their time. I would rush my communication or not say anything or say the wrong thing because I didn't feel my voice was worth being listened to or what I had to say didn't matter. That whatever the narrative fear was playing in my head about this other person and how they would receive me would win over and I would shrink and I would lose the power that God put inside of me to have. I know in those moments that what God put me there to say was exactly what I was supposed to say. But my own insecurities kept me from saying it. And it kept me from delivering the message that God wanted them to hear from me. So that's an issue. And I'm working on myself. Woo, I didn't expect to get emotional. Wow. I'm working on myself to become less insecure and to stand on what I know I was sent to do and just say it. Because God doesn't tell us to do things without conviction. He tells us to do things and is like, do it. And sometimes we get in our own way. And in the moments where that could have set them free, maybe they were waiting, maybe they had a prayer that they were waiting for God to show up and tell them. And I got in the way. My own insecurities got in the way. I did not know that I was getting ready to cry here. Okay. Didn't expect that. Okay, we're going to pull it together. But yeah, I got in the way of them seeing God that day. So to reconcile, I'm going to say it now. And maybe they will see it. Maybe God will deliver it to them. Before I do, I just want to encourage every woman to read this book, do the work, and step into this next version of yourself that God is calling you to. It's going to take work. It's going to take intentionality, but everything that matters does. Whew, guys, wow. Okay. Yes. To Miss Viola Davis. Guys, I'm not a speaker just yet. Okay, no. I'm a speaker, but I'm still learning and I'm still developing. So there are things that I want to read, but I don't want to read. Okay, it was early October 2014. I was getting ready to graduate undergrad, and I felt like I'd been doing so many things to be approved in other people's eyes. I felt nudged to audition for Juilliard, and at first, I looked at God like he was crazy. The Juilliard? For real? I knew secretly in my heart that I had wanted to act, but I hadn't since middle school. Even in high school, my lack of self-confidence kept me from pursuing. I felt I would be an imposter. But nevertheless, I heard God and I looked into what the process was going to be. I needed to prepare one classical monologue and one modern monologue. One day, God showed me your commencement speech. You spoke about exactly what I was going through, and you ended with the Topsy monologue from the Colored Museum. I listened to that speech multiple times a day from October 2014 until February 2015. I worked for 4 months without any classical training, only middle school experience in theater, and out of 200 people who auditioned the day I did, 22 people were called back, and I was one of them. The monologue I was called back for was Topsy. I met you in March of 2015 in Indianapolis. I was in your presence, close counter, enough to speak to you about 3 times. And my feelings of unworthiness kept me from saying what I really needed to say. I wanted to tell you that your work matters. Your words inspired me to push past my doubts and limitations because I had you to look up to and learn from. I now had a unique experience that I will never forget. An experience that showed me that with God and hard work, anything is possible. God has given you a platform to highlight his work in you and to bring out the light in others. There are no coincidences. You have been chosen since before you were born. Now for Miss Janet Jackson. In 2021, my former production partner and I founded an organization called Culture Punch. Our goal was to bring a program into schools and to give a platform to vulnerable youth to use their talents that God gave them without compromising themselves or selling out. We felt that a live performance would be the most transformative. As a creative writer, I followed God's lead. I had never written a stage play before, only films and stories. But he gave me songs as I was writing that inspired me. The first song that he gave me was Rhythm Nation. Then one day, out of the blue, my production partner at the time, Naja, called me and told me that she felt the Holy Spirit speak your name and that you'd be involved in whatever play I was writing in some form or fashion, which she didn't know what I was writing. I hadn't shared it with her yet. As random as it sounded and out of the blue that it was, it kind of made complete sense. As I was writing, I was praying. I wanted to know what he wanted me to do with the musical. And I also wanted to know how world icon Janet Jackson was going to ever be reached with the musical. That was October 2022. From that moment, he led the way. He instructed me to give you the play as a gift. And later on, he revealed that it had been a desire of yours in the past to have a stage play, and that you hoped Rhythm Nation would have a long-lasting impact in the world. He also revealed to me that you were celebrating 50 years of your career. And being a native of Indiana, our state had never honored you. With knowing that, I contacted the Indiana Commission for Women, and Naja and I petitioned for you to be recognized. After much consideration and after our presentation, they created the Eminence Award specifically to honor you. On May 26, 2023, God showed up and showed out as Naja and I were escorted to the meet and greet at your concert. Once again, I was tongue-tied and nothing came out. Nothing came out right. So things did not go as expected, and a lot of things were lost in translation. But the award was finally delivered to your mother in May of this year. I wanted to say this to you. God keeps his promises. Delays are not denials. And he's still using you and your message to inspire unity and love in the world. He sees you, he's keeping you, and he's proud of how you love. Now, Miss Toni Braxton. Okay, so last October, the 7th to be exact, I woke up and God put you on my heart. I don't know why, but there was a heaviness. And if you were one of my friends, I would have showed up at your door. That was the way I was feeling. Clearly, we didn't know one another. I just knew that I needed to pray for you. I even told my prayer group to pray for you. Then I realized later that day that it was your birthday. So that was kind of weird, but all I could do was pray. 5 days later, on October 12th, the previous project that I had mentioned with Ms. Jackson came to another obstacle in the road, and I felt stuck. And so I sat and I prayed. And I was like, God, what's next? Like, what do you want me to do? I don't know what else there is to do. And he whispered your name again. I cannot contact Toni Braxton to help on this project. I don't know her. She does not know me. I do not know anyone who knows her. This makes no sense. But he kept saying your name. So I just kind of rolled my eyes, and I was like, well, whatever that means. And then I felt nudged to send you a DM on Instagram, as that's the only possible way that anything could get through. And believe me, I didn't expect a response. You have 4 million plus followers. I knew my message was just going to fall into the abyss. But I felt nudged, so I did. And after I did, I felt silly. And as I sat in the cafe at Target, I told God, I'm going to need you to confirm quick, fast, and in a hurry that that's what you wanted me to do. Because if not, I'm going to go back and delete that message immediately. So a few minutes later, your song Wardrobe comes on the speaker at Target. And I'm sorry, but that's the most random Toni Braxton song to be playing at Target. Of course, I knew it because the Pulse album got me through undergrad. But I took that as my confirmation. So I sat back and I waited for more direction because what in the world? Then I got the instruction to order nude sugar. And I called Naja up and I was like, okay, would you want to play around, shoot some, mock commercials for nude sugar? And Naja said, sure, she was down. So I ordered it that day, and around October 20-ish, we received the package, and we kind of were like, okay, we have it. We'll get to it when we get to it. Or so we thought. A few days after the product arrived, then the 30 Years of Toni Braxton Challenge was announced. God gave us perfect weather, perfect location, and showed up and showed out. By being obedient and ordering the product ahead of time, did I know the challenge was coming? No. But I heard him say, order it. So I did. We end up winning the challenge because God. We connect further with your team, and I begin to edit content for Love and Laughter, and ultimately find myself filming the show. What I need to say to you is, God chose you to defy odds and prove to anyone in any situation that God has the final say. Everything you have overcome to still be doing what you're doing and to be known as a living legend is proof that God exists. 2 bouts with bankruptcy, severe health conditions that eventually brought awareness for others, overcoming autism and coming back to conquer Vegas after the first round tried to break you years ago, still maintaining legendary status is nothing but proof that God has got you and you're favored. All the things that I just mentioned that you have endured and overcome, while many people don't survive just one of those, you stand victorious over it all. You were told early on that you sell pain. The way I see it, you show us all how to turn pain into purpose. Ms. Braxton, you may sing about pain, but your life illustrates purpose and power over pain. God has always seen you, and he loves you, and he's been working through you to show himself both faithful and powerful. That was a whole lot, okay? But that was me taking back my power over the lies that the enemy told me that I was not worth listening to. Thank you, Ms. Roberts, for this book and for unlocking the voice inside of me. I sit in this moment and I'm finally realizing that I am worthy and my voice is worthy to be heard. So God smiles on you. I'm going to tag these women and some others and hope that they get to hear what I feel God sent me to say to them. And thank you for listening to my Not So TED Talk. I love y'all. I don't know what this is going to do, but God does.